Hi everyone, it's Ash from FPL Hints, here with my team selection for UCL Fantasy ahead of matchday 14. As always, if you're able to like, share and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. So we'll do a quick check-in with how matchday 13 went with the results and my team, as well as the transfers that I'm going to make for matchday 14. So without further ado, let's get straight into it and the results first and foremost. So I think the big one was Arsenal against Real Madrid. No one saw that coming. A 3-0 win for the Gunners. And as big of a buffer that is for Arsenal, we know how even those sorts of margins can really be taken, well, off altogether in the second leg in seasons gone by. And of course, it's Real Madrid at the Bernabeu. So it really is all to play for. And in many ways, Arsenal certainly can't be complacent. Neither can UCL fantasy managers. That match is far from over. And yeah, in many ways, I look at my own team and I would need to factor in getting Arsenal cover. But that particular second leg, it's all to play for. And then on to the other fixture, PSG against Aston Villa. No doubt PSG had the probabilities at hand in getting the win, and ultimately that is what happened. Again, with Unai Emery, his former club, you thought it'd be a closer affair, and obviously it wasn't. I would say, in many ways, all to play for. Also, in that second leg for Aston Villa as well, certainly wouldn't write them off, especially with a smaller margin than compared to Real Madrid. But you could say that based on the probabilities that PSG certainly do have the edge with the likes of an informed Dembele who's having basically the season of his life. And then on to the other matches in the other half of the draw. Bayern Munich against Inter Milan. I think that was somewhat of a mild shock. No doubt Inter Milan have been putting in some astute performances in the UCL this season, but that 2-1 deficit is something I certainly didn't expect, and I actually didn't have any Inter Milan players in UCL Fantasy Matchday 13. And with Bayern Munich, certainly all to play for, as is the case with the other two ties. And then lastly, yeah, it was basically by the form book. Dortmund, of course, reached the final last year, but this is a completely different Dortmund team altogether against an informed Barcelona. 4-0 winners. Second leg is a complete write off. You can certainly argue that rotation may be up for grabs for Barcelona in that second leg, or manage minutes at the very least. So, in terms of how my own team did for UCL Fantasy Matchday 13, 73 points in the end, which I think worked out to be a small red arrow. But then, with all things considered, looking at the players that I had, I actually feel that I got away with one there for sure. Backed Kane as the first captain, didn't work out. Then Rafinha chipped in with that 28-point haul. Also had Lewandowski, so could have captained either. Would have got the same amount of points. And of course, Lewandowski was the man of the match for Barcelona in UCL Fantasy Matchday 13. Yeah, Ademi had him blank. Nothing I could do there. Elise, disappointment. Mbappe against Arsenal. That was quite remarkable that they kept him quiet as well. Koundé really delivered for me. And yeah, David Raya in that first match, wasn't expecting a clean sheet there. So fairly content with those players delivering. And then the bench, Szczesny in the second leg, same amount of points of David Raya. Of course, I wasn't going to sub him in after David Raya's clean sheet. Kim, disappointment. But then again, I had the option to bench him for the second day. And Bellingham was basically non-existent. And yeah, Schlosserbeck wasn't even in the squad. So on the whole, grateful I've got the Barcelona spine, but then with hindsight, because of the way that UCL Fantasy works, I could have got an extra Barcelona player, and I was favouring Barcelona for the second leg, well, the first leg. So with hindsight, probably should have just locked in that extra Barcelona player, but yeah, it is what it is. And on the whole, could have been considerably worse, but I'll take it. On to the bus team now for match day 14. So sorting it by date, got Szczesny, who will be the starting goalkeeper for the team on the Tuesday, and just sorting the bench out here as well. So Hakimi will be coming in for Rudiger for that first day. I've got Ademi, but I think I'll probably get rid of him. And then Schlotterbeck, I'll probably get rid of him as well. So again, it's dead rubber in many respects. Just confirm that now. On to my actual transfers now for match day 14. Already called them out. Schlotterbeck, he has to go. Ademi has to go as well. And the players that I really want to get in, I do want to get that final Barcelona player just to basically lock it in. Rotation is a bit of a concern, I won't lie to you. So the one player who I do want, not that it's a given with Arsenal at the Bernabeu in the second leg, but I certainly do want to get Saka in. I think there's a lot of upside opportunity. He's been rested after his recent return, getting managed minutes in the Premier League. You're looking at his ownership, yeah, less than 10% owned. And again, it's with an eye towards the next round potentially. I do need Arsenal cover. Got David Raya. I don't think that'll be enough. So in he comes. And looking at the other players that I've got, I'll keep Kim, goalkeepers, Hakimi, Rudiger, who could be a question mark for me. Koundé, of course. The Bayern Munich players, I'll still keep them for that final all to play for match. But the one big question mark for me is Bellingham. Completely different player from last season. And yeah, just looking at how he's done, of course, he had that return few match days in, got a few returns, and then really he's blanked the last few games. And yeah, it is a big match. Part of me's thinking I should keep him, but I do want to get Yamal in as well. I mean, let's just sort it by midfielders and see who else I could potentially get. Because I feel that with Yamal, he is the big miss for my team. But let's just see who else I could potentially get in terms of the other players. Of course, I've got Rafinha sorted. Let's sort it by percentage. Yeah, Rafinha, Yamal, both 50% each, so kind of makes sense to have both in. Musiala, wouldn't really consider him. Barcola could be an option actually, 7.2 million. But then that match against Aston Villa, did he? Yeah, he did blank. So not really much there. A Morgan Rogers could potentially be an option had it been a closer encounter in the first leg. And yeah, there aren't really that many other options, really. I think just for the sake of protecting overall rank, and even if he is benched in that second leg, I'll get Yamal in just as a reminder on the actual matches. So 15th of April. So in the event he has a no-show or gets cameo minutes, I can always sub him out. So that leaves me with £5.5 million for my remaining defensive slot. I've already locked in now my 5 Barcelona players, and of course I've got the semi-final and the final in mind now. So it basically leaves me with, let me just sort this out, £5.5 million. I would have considered Mendes, but as is confirmed here, if I'm not mistaken, he is 5.8 million, so can't reach out to him. So just pushing it back to £5.5 million. And looking at the options at hand, just sort it by total points. So yeah, could consider Pacho potentially picking up returns gradually. I think he could be an option. And then got can't consider Emre Can. Schlotterbeck, of course not. Upamecano, of course not. De Vrij, Inter Milan. I just fancy Bayern Munich to score against Inter Milan, so I can't consider him, even if there's a chance that Inter could progress, and I've got 0 Inter players. Of course, Gabriel is out for Arsenal. Couldn't consider just the options are fairly slim. And just looking at Willian Pacho once again, you can see that he's literally featured in every Champions League match for PSG this season. So it kind of makes sense to factor him in as an option. And with PSG, of course, with Ligue 1 factored in as well, that's another food for thought with the options that I've got to really factor into account. They played, well, more than a week ago. So they've had, if I'm not mistaken, a good rest, as it were, in the league. So with Pacho in particular, if I'm not mistaken, he plays down the centre, is an option. He's had a few managed minutes, but of course that was with the Champions League in mind. And I certainly wouldn't say that with PSG they haven't got a foot in the semi-finals. Of course not, but it's really him or Saliba who I'd really go for. I've already got Arsenal defensive cover and David Raya. I'm not expecting an Arsenal clean sheet at the Bernabeu, so I think it makes sense to just beef up my options with PSG. Again, I'm not really, if I'm being frank with you, expecting a clean sheet against Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa will really put up a fight, especially with the history that Arteta has, and he's a continental manager. He's got the expertise. He's been here before, but yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, I'm not sure what else I could do here other than getting another PSG player. Now, with the expectation that PSG win, Arsenal win, Bayern Munich win, which of course that might be a bit more trickier, and Barcelona, Bayern, Arsenal, and PSG, I'd have enough cover for that semi-final in match day 15 to not have to reinvent the team. Of course, I've just written off Dortmund. I wouldn't say I've written off Real Madrid, but then I just feel that Bellingham hasn't offered the value that I would have hoped for based on last season, and looking at the options like Yamal specifically, he's had a good season and he didn't blank against Dortmund, so I can't keep on not having him. But I'm expecting managed minutes for the likes of Rafinha, Lewandowski, and Yamal just because of that 4-0 lead against Dortmund. So let's just review the transfers, look at them like for like. So I think Yamal in for Bellingham is an upgrade, Saka for Ademi is an upgrade, and Pacho for Schlotterbeck is an upgrade as well. So let's confirm those transfers and sort it by date. So Pacho will come in for Kim, and then Saka, he of course plays on the 16th. Got Hakimi come in for Rudiger, and then Szczesny comes in for David Raya. And just having a look at any other players here. I just for the sake, in case I accidentally forget to sub in players after the first day, just have Saka in just in case. So all of my 16th of April players that are extra are now on the bench. So let's just confirm the team itself. I'll do my famous super zoom in. There we go. So Harry Kane, all to play for against Inter Milan. Mbappe, I would argue, a lot to play for against Arsenal. And Lewandowski, a bit of a rotation risk. So managements for him potentially. And then, Yamal, Rafinha, it's just for the semi-final essentially. I think one or the other will almost certainly get benched. And Dembele and Saka, you could say there's a fair amount to play for. Defense, Koundé, I hope he doesn't get benched, but we'll see what happens. Hakimi and Pacho with an eye to the semis potentially, and then Szczesny in goal, and then David Raya, Rudiger, Elise, and Kim making up the remaining 16th of April players. The other captain I could get for the 16th of April in terms of options available. I think who's got something to play for, I'd argue it would potentially be a Harry Kane or an Mbappe, perhaps. Mbappe being at home as well. That is what I would potentially consider. But yeah, Rafinha for the first day, and then one of Kane or Mbappe for the final outing for my captaincy for matchday 14. So there you have it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Have I got the balance right? Have I got the balance wrong? Are there any clear misses with my UCL fantasy team? Should I have tweaked it to have got Mendes in? Have I made my transfers too early? I probably have, but I just feel that they were so obvious in making those moves that I didn't want to wait. And let me know in the comments below with what your team lineup is going to be for UCL Fantasy Matchday 14 and what you think will be the outcomes for the ties available. As always, if you're able to like, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. Take care and all the best.